I think that's one thing that hockey gives all of us that we overlook sometimes, and it's one of the most valuable things the game ever gave me. Relish in that, love that for the young guys, and use it. Think about it so you can use it when you're finished, because I think it's such a blessing to be able to have that.
We are ready to rock and roll. Welcome to this episode of Pucks to Properties. Tom Mealy's in the house today. We got an incredible guest, Tim Brent. Tim, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
All right, good stuff. Tom Mealy, why the hell do we do this?
Tim, thank you for being here. Why we do this, I think you can kind of put the two words in the title of the podcast together. It's very simple and straightforward. It's hockey guys that are now doing business in real estate. Every level we've had on the show, whether it be the SP, the Coast, American League, NHL, Europe, somehow this industry is filled with a lot of ex-players. And the reason why Bob and I put this together is because we needed some sort of platform or outlet for guys that are kind of having that one foot out the door, facing retirement, that that lull where you don't really know what you're going to do with the next phase of life, but somehow us three knuckleheads figured it out, and we're here today, and hopefully we could pass the baton to, guys that are in your network, in your market, maybe potential ex-players that might know you, see you on this platform, and then just use it for networking and connection, to help guys make that next leap. So thank you for being here. Very highly recommended from your boy, Kurt. So hopefully it's going to be a very good show. So thank you.
Yeah, no, appreciate you having me. It's a cool platform, and we need more of that. Guys that are making that transition. Anybody that needs a hand or ideas. I think we should all be reaching out to each other on that.
Sweet. Absolutely. So you have a very interesting background. You played 12 years, both here, American League, NHL, and also KHL championship. You had a Stanley Cup and a KHL championship, which is pretty cool. So
that was fun.
Yeah, we'll dig into that. But also cool stuff, obviously, when you retired, you're with one company and you just launched your own, which is extremely exciting, which Tom and I can't wait to hear about it. But give us a quick rundown of your playing career and just, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Grew up in a small town outside Toronto in Ontario. It was a dream to play hockey professionally, just like a lot of kids from Canada and, from the Midwest. And so dream come true to be able to play as long as I did. Super grateful for the ability to do that. And, started out in Anaheim. That's where I met Kurt.
You got drafted twice. You got drafted twice.
Yeah, one of the. That's a claim to fame that probably I wish I wasn't. I wasn't a part of, but no, it ended up working out fine. I was one of only a couple guys to be drafted twice by the same team.
Yeah, I don't know why. I know there's a story behind it, but I looked at it like 2 years after you got drafted, they redrafted you. There could have been an agent thing. That my guess is something behind the scenes.
It wasn't really an agent butting heads thing. It was a kind of a misinterpretation of the re-entry draft rules, where I thought if I was told that if I didn't come to an agreement, I could go back to junior for my kind of final year and become a free agent, which wasn't the case. I would have had to go back to junior for a year and then sit out an entire year from hockey and not play. So when we didn't come to an agreement, I was like, okay, well, I go back to junior for another year. And then we find out that that's not the case. And so, re-entered the draft. Anaheim picks me again. And, it's all history now, but we were able to come to an agreement, and really enjoyed my time there. Met a lot of great guys, and then obviously got to be a part of some pretty good teams there, and guys that I still.
How was the party? How was the Stanley Cup party, dude?
I wasn't there for it. I wasn't there for it. I never got a ring. I never got my name on the cup. I played 20 games or so, and I was getting traded to Pittsburgh. So I missed like Stanley Cups like 3 years in a row. I was starting to think teams were going to start paying me to be able to trade me away so they'd win. So I missed a cup in Anaheim. I went to Pittsburgh, got traded to Chicago. Pittsburgh won the cup, then signed as a free agent in Toronto. Chicago won the cup.
So you're the Corey Perry of
gosh, man. That's exactly what happened there. But nonetheless, just, got to play with Teemu Selanne and Chris Pronger and Scott Niedermayer, and just a slew of incredible guys and players, and learned a ton. So that was a great place to start. And then, like I said, bounced around a bunch, settled in Toronto kind of for the first time in a full-time NHL role, and dream come true. It's like playing for the Yankees or the Red Sox as a kid growing up in Boston and New York. So I had such an incredible time playing for the Maple Leafs, and having friends and family in the stands every night, just the best. And then had two really, probably my two best games of the year against Carolina when I was playing in Toronto, and signed a 2-year deal as a free agent in Carolina. And that's what brought us down here, live here now full time with my family in Raleigh and just outside Raleigh, and love North Carolina. And just an incredible real estate market, super, blessed to be in a market like this. So, and then left Carolina, went to Russia for 2 years, and we need more booze to be able to talk about some of the Russian stories. But got to play for Iron Mike Keenan over there, won a championship, which was incredible.
So he was over there coaching. I didn't know.
Yeah, he was over there for a while. Like, he was over there several years after I left. I played for him.
He was in St. Louis when I was in St. Louis for the St. Louis organization. I was trying to make it. Never made it up. I played one exhibition game, but he was up there when I was in the minors in Worcester at the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I nothing but respect for Mike. He was the Russian coaches are wild over there. Like, I mean, as hard ass as you could possibly get. And so Mike was a little older, so he probably softened a little bit than, from his Iron Mike days. But I think we got along really well. I probably played a style that he, respected and liked. And we had some of the best Russian players probably to ever play, honestly. Two guys that had 20 some odd one-way offers to come over and play in the NHL, and just were good playing in Russia, and just really good Russian players and really good guys. So we had a great time and got to win there, which was something I'll never forget. Yeah.
Nice. So you bounced around a bit, which is pretty cool. Obviously, it gets you ready for the real world. But let's look at the transition. You played at Lehigh, right? Is that the last team you played for?
That was my last year.
And then how did you know going towards the end? So this is for a lot of people listening, we all come to an end, right? Our careers all come to an end, and we start thinking about, all right, what's next? For me, it was when I was playing in Europe. I knew, I didn't want to bring my family over to Europe because, before you know it, you're going to be 40 years old. I was playing with a guy that was 40, brought his wife and I think he's 3 or 4 kids over there. I'm like, what the hell are you going to do? I know how much money you make. It's expensive to raise a family. So what are you going to do after? So for me, I was thinking probably 28, 29. I retired when I was 30. So that's when I got to start thinking. For you, when was that first time you said, all right, I better start preparing for life after?
So it was interesting. It's almost a similar story, but it was a little earlier in my career. So my first year pro, the NHL was locked out the full season. I was in Cincinnati, Anaheim's farm team at the time. Yep. And, the American Hockey League was incredible. Like a bunch of NHL players playing. And so I was 20 years old, come to training camp, and there was a veteran guy there, same thing, family, showed up at camp expecting to play and got cut. Yeah. And I just remember being, that young and thinking that I'm never going to let that happen to me. That's just so I knew real young I wanted to control when I finished and not get pushed out of the game, leave a little bit in the tank and be be in control of kind of my destiny. And so I made a decision pretty early that I wanted to make sure I still had years left in me and kind of walk away from the game on my terms. And so, I did some things early on. Like I said, grew up in a small town, real blue collar family. My dad worked on a automotive, factory line for 30 years. My mom worked at in the little town we lived in. And so I didn't have stock market knowledge. I was, I signed my deal at 19, get a signing bonus. And I was so worried about, you hear all these stories, agents or financial guys taking advantage of athletes. Mm-hmm. And so I bought a couple houses. So I started investing in real estate when I was 20. I bought a couple houses on a street in my hometown that was like the best street to live on, everybody was like, oh, this is the best street to live on. Yeah. And I rented one of them. I lived in the other. I did little things like my sister was in college. I would let her live with me for free in the summer if she painted the house, silly little things like that. And I kind of grew a little bit of a portfolio, bought some townhomes, just kind of kept my money in real estate. And I obviously, diversified into the market as I kind of.
Why real estate? Like who was it?
It was tangible. I could touch it. I could walk on it. It was something that, made sense for a common sense guy like me. I wasn't I wasn't gifted in economics or, I didn't go to college. But I could understand real estate and I could kind of see the future of where things were going a little bit. And so I just kind of slowly grew that some. I'd sell things, kind of got into the commercial space and the land space a little bit, probably 6 or 7 years after that. And then bought and sold real estate throughout my career, including, some stuff when I played here in Raleigh. I bought through a guy who ultimately helped me make the decision when to retire. So an older gentleman who ended up being my mentor in the real estate industry here in Raleigh. I bought some things through him when I played for the Canes. And, he was in the business for like 60 years. Good old boy from North Carolina.
Was it commercial? What'd you buy?
I bought land, raw land, which, is good Lord isn't making any more of it. But you need to have a little bit of, patient money to do it, which I had some. And so when I was getting to the end, I gave this guy, his name's Steve, a call and said, I want to come and follow you around a little bit. I think this is what I want to do when I'm finished. And he was a broker. And, he sat me down after I followed him around for a week and all the brokers in his office. And I had a deal to go play in Sweden for 3 years that I was about to sign. And he sat me down and was like, listen, I'm, 75 and I don't know how many more years I'm going to be able to do this, but if you want to retire and come, I'll mentor you. And so we were sitting in a Starbucks parking lot. I'll never forget this. My wife had come up. We had a place in Florida. She came up and I said, I need to make a decision here. I want you to see Raleigh. I want you to, and I made a decision to retire from hockey, get into real estate. We were going to move to Raleigh full time. And I mean, not even 5 minutes later, the doctor calls and tells my wife she's pregnant with our first child. So we jumped off a cliff a little bit there, but I don't regret it for a second. It was great to learn under him. He was a wealth of knowledge, still is, still call him, still talk to him, still run deals by him. But I left money on the table with the idea that my earnings potential, my earnings ceiling in real estate was unlimited.
Yeah.
I knew it was finite in hockey. I knew like that was probably my last deal. And so I wanted to get ahead of that. And again, I felt
that takes a huge set of balls though, because I know for me and Tom, if we were offered a 3-year contract at that time, the decision that you're either going to go to, and Sweden's actually a very nice place to probably pay very good money, knowing you left a lot of money on the table. It takes very, very difficult decisions, especially with a family. I know maybe it helped with your first child on the way, but leaving it on the table, I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was a difficult decision. You're right. I mean, I felt like, again, felt super blessed to have played as long as I did, relatively unscathed, no real concussion issues, or you just, as you get older, you start worrying about, where's this going to leave me long-term? And, we all played hard and that's part of the game. I get it. So it was a matter of, and I will say, the other thing that I had that maybe some guys don't have is my wife has an incredible career, which is super helpful when you're going to jump off a cliff into something new. And so we're still a 2-income household, and she's incredible at what she does. And so that certainly helped the decision, but that's kind of the story. And I knew the whole time that I wanted to get into the principal side of the business, but felt like it was going through brokerage was the best way to learn it. And I would recommend to anybody thinking about the real estate industry, it is a great way to learn the business. It's tough. It's a lot of the time it's eat what you kill.
Yep.
I'll tell you, I walked into the brokerage shop, and within 2 weeks I was like, man, if you could run a brokerage house like a hockey team, you would steamroll everybody. But it's, obviously very different mentalities than hockey. And that's probably why I really wanted to get to the principal side too, was you could kind of create a team and everybody's pulling in the same direction. And
absolutely. Tom, I know you want to add to that. I saw you unmute. That kind of piqued your interest about the team. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I think it's cool that he said that, because obviously, I mean, you and I know what's going on here, and that's kind of the environment that we've tried to implement here. As opposed from admin, the girls working on the admin side. I think 1, 2, 3, it's like 4 or 5 hockey guys in this office that we're grooming, and I myself knew nothing about real estate before I met Bob, and that led to this podcast, what led to recruitment outreach, which targeting ex-athletes, which, I mean, one guy moved here from Minnesota for the position, knew nothing about the industry, and kind of just jumped all in. He was the captain over at Utica, played Division III, and said, I like what you guys are building here, and seems fun, seems cool, competitive. I could still be myself, but at the same time, make some decent coin. And it's refreshing to hear you say that, because we are trying to do that here. I don't take what you said for granted. I think it's amazing that you went out on your own terms. The hardest thing or the most fascinating thing I find about you is that at a young age you realize that you didn't want to be that guy, and at 40 that it was just going on. You know what I mean? So that kudos to you for that.
Yeah, I mean it was. Listen, I didn't do anything extraordinary there. I felt like it was just one of those it was a raw moment that I happened to kind of see and be a part of, and that's part of the business, right? Like it's a what have you done for me lately business in hockey, and I think when you're young you don't realize the business side of the game until you're like thrust into it, right? And so once you're kind of in the middle of it and you see things like that happen, you gotta protect yourself and your family and your future, and that's kind of
you got to stop being selfish and take care of other people. That's
exactly. It's just like exactly. I mean, obviously your priorities change over your lifetime. When I was 20, I didn't have a care in the world, single, just loving every day of getting to go to the rink. And, by the end of my career, it's, wife, starting to have trying to have a family. And, that becomes way more important than anything else. Right. So, I was just kind of lucky enough to be, to see that early on, and how, cutthroat the business of hockey can be, and, try and plan for it.
What would you tell the younger guys right now?
I'd say enjoy every moment of it. Like it's still the best game in the world, for so many different reasons. I think it's the best group of men. It's an absolute man's game, right? Like, and I don't mean women shouldn't play. I mean, when I was playing in the NHL, when I was playing pro hockey, like you were sitting beside men's men. And I say one of the best gifts hockey ever gave me was I got to sit in rooms with high character people day in and day out. And so when I'm around people that are not of that high character, they kind of still stick out like sore thumbs to me. So when you guys are recruiting, for the business and you're interviewing people, I hope you guys have got that same, experience in the game of hockey where, man, it was, you bled together, you fought for each other. And so when people with kind of ulterior motives show up, you can kind of see through the bullshit a little bit.
You could sniff that from a mile away. 100%.
Exactly. And so like, I think that's one thing that hockey gives all of us that we overlook sometimes. And it's one of the most valuable things the game ever gave me. So,
that is,
so I'd say, relish in that, love that for the young guys, and use it, think about it so you can use it when you're finished. Cause I think it's such a blessing to be able to have that.
So besides the gift of sniffing and smelling and seeing through the bullshit in life, right? Let's talk about your transition. So you had a mentor, Steve, right? Who was in his 70s, which I just want to add to that. For anyone that's looking to jump into something, always look for somebody older, in my opinion, because at that point they want to give, just like you, right, Tim? You got in that. You retired because Steve gave you probably an outlook on the way things are going to be, and maybe he was going to work with you and hand you off a book of business. I don't know, but they at that point, I know me. I'm getting older. Older I get, the more you want to help people. right?
Yeah,
The younger we are, the more selfish typically we are. But walk us through how you got into business with Steve and that company, and then today, because you just started your own company, which is awesome. So congratulations. Walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, thrown in the fire, drinking out of a fire hose, here's keys to your office. Good luck. Start cold calling, and like I was, knock on my door if you have any questions. That was kind of, Steve was old school in the way he mentored, but like I said, learned a pile from him. So, man, just like everybody else, I was thrown into this new business, didn't have a damn clue what I was doing. Could see real estate well, but like didn't know how to communicate it with people, didn't know how to call on people. So I remember like it was yesterday. I was so embarrassed for other people in the office to hear me cold call that I would go sit in the truck in the parking lot and cold call people, because I was so bad at it. But I mean, that's just learning, right? Like, and I think it's like, I don't know, you're, learning something new in hockey. It's the same thing. It takes you some reps to be able to figure it out. And so I just knew, again, real estate was one of those things where, and I would say this for most businesses, as an ex-athlete, you have a leg up on a lot of people because you have a work ethic that not everybody has. So I knew that I could come in and just flat out work people. And that was like, aside from having any talent in the real estate industry, I knew I could come out and outwork people. And so that was my whole mindset. I'm going to screw some things up, but I'm going to outwork everybody in this office. And so, again, Steve knew early on that I wanted to get to the business or to the principal side of the business. And so he made me do a lot of little things that, most brokers didn't do in the market. Like I was going to town council meetings and meeting with council members and, counting votes and like all the things that are important to what I do in business now, putting together the right A&E team and, know which engineer has a relationship with a planning director and what municipality, you know what I mean?
You only learn that stuff by doing right there. You can't
exactly. And so, and all those things are the little things that end up making the difference in a deal either working or not. Right. And it's this, when you relate it back to hockey, it's, goals, assists, all that stuff matters. But like a big goal doesn't happen if a guy doesn't get the puck out in his own end. Like it's the little things that end up ultimately making big differences. So that's where Steve really kind of threw gas on the fire for me and helped me grow exponentially. And so I was a broker for about 4 years. A company out of Minneapolis came and asked me to open an office. They were trying to grow. They're a national developer. They were trying to grow geographically. So I opened an office for them here in Raleigh and kind of grew that office and grew, a pipeline for them for almost 5 years. And then I fell in love in that time with industrial real estate. Speculatively build to suit. I just, they're concrete rectangles. Like they're not sexy mixed use real estate, but I just believe in the asset class. I've really enjoyed working with, contractors and tenants and everybody in that industry. And so in June, I left and started my own industrial real estate company, solely focused on ground up development. I've got my first project here in Raleigh that I'll, kick off in the summer. It'll be 2 buildings, right around 400,000 square feet total. So man, I'm thrilled. I'm super excited to and I think it's a good, it started out with me buying a little house in Cambridge, right, in my hometown in Hespeler, and now fast forward 25 years, 20 years. And now I get to do bigger, more fun things. And, but it's still real estate. It's still the same.
You still have those houses?
No, I don't. I've kind of gotten rid of all of my Canadian real estate. So I'm, my wife and I got our citizenship down here last year, and for for a bunch of different reasons, it was better for us just to divest of everything in Canada.
Cool.
Understood. So walk us through your day-to-day right now. What do you get up in the morning? I'm assuming you still go to the gym, work out before everything.
Yeah. I need to do that mentally now more than anything.
Yep.
But yeah, get up. I'm an early riser. I'm up at 5. I leave for the gym around 5:15, and then right now it's just me. I'm at a point now where I'm probably going to hire someone soon. So I'll be kind of going through that same thing you guys have been. And it's tricky to find the right person. I don't want to grow. I don't want to grow the company to a bunch of people. I want it to be small and tight knit. And you can do a lot of industrial real estate with a small team, which was another thing that was important to me. So right now it's I've got a couple smaller deals going that we close on one in less than 30 days. So a lot of kind of last minute property closing items, trying to get that to a point where we know we're going to close on the 24th. You know what I mean? Which is always seems like it's a fire drill on any closing, but and then getting the entitlements for this project in the summer. So it's meeting with some of my GC partners, third parties, a lot of time with civil engineers and architects right now, that just to kind of get through the design phases of these buildings. And then it's relationships, right? Like it's meeting with the brokers and, whatever tenants that might be in the market that are looking for space. And, but mostly for me, it's those broker relationships and making sure that, everybody in the market kind of knows what we've got and what we're going to do. And kind of getting the word out about the company. And so, it's different every day, but for the most part, it's pretty focused. Ideally, I'd like to have kind of 3 deals going all at one time. So the pipeline's always, got something in it. So one deal, like I said, we're going to close here shortly, 30 days, and then, start construction of the second deal in the summer. So that's a 12-month timeline to build a building, call it another 12 months to stabilize and sell it. So, and then the third property will be one that needs a full rezone and entitlement. So that'll be, in our market, it's 18 to 24 months to get through that process. So, it's trying to find the next deal as well.
Are you, and I know we're coming towards the end, but are you looking to hold any of these, or are you just looking to build and flip?
Yeah, I think for now, it'll be a build and stabilize and sell, just so I can recycle some capital and kind of but I would love to own some long-term industrial real estate. So, eventually that's a goal of mine, to have some quote unquote mailbox money,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the excitement is obviously building it and then flipping it, but because that long-term buy and hold, just like a house as you had, it's boring, but it feeds you every day. It's one of those
every day, man. It's if I didn't have to recycle the capital that I would love to just hold everything. That's I say this, you can make a lot of money selling real estate. You create wealth by owning real estate.
Right. Yeah.
So
100%.
Tim, is this ground up construction, or did you find like an old yarn company or a building, like and transition it in, or a hat or a shoe company.
So
transition it?
So the deal we're closing on 30 days was an existing building that we're gonna turn over quickly. The two buildings that I was telling you about, that one's a 215, the other's a 170,000 foot rear loader, both rear loaders. Those are ground up construction, so it's a raw piece of land, like 36 acres, and we'll go ground up.
These are residential properties or retail?
No, industrial properties. So industrial, high bay warehouse, kind of your class A 32 foot clear, 36 foot clear product. Think about where UPS or Amazon or anybody's going to.
Tom, that's the one being built literally right down the street, like literally probably 100 yards over there.
What are they putting in there? Who's the tenant?
Talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
I don't know. There's a bunch of bays, and I don't know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can demise them up, and they're pretty flexible buildings as far as who ends up going in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool, Tom. Anything else?
No, I think that's good. I think we covered a lot. I appreciate it. Tim, what are your parting words for any guys that have one foot out the door that are thinking of making the jump into either entrepreneurship or the real life? What would you tell them?
I just tell them to, have confidence in themselves, and they got to a point in their career in hockey that that not many people get to, and just know that the tools you've got in your belt are they transfer to everyday life, and there's a pile of employers who would love to have those skill sets. So feel confident in what you've got and what you've done, and roll.
Love it. So obviously one of the things I'm excited to see, you're building your team right now. So you got a brand new expansion team, right, down in Longleaf Industrial. I love it. But if anyone wants to get a hold of you and, ask questions or maybe even work for you, what's your contact info to give them?
Yeah, it's Tim at longleaf-industrial.com is my email. Feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, all that stuff. So cool. Feel free to reach out. I have had guys do that, especially through LinkedIn. So yeah, man, I'm looking to add at least one person right now, maybe two, and it's exciting.
Cool. Well, good luck, and thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule, Tim. And good luck with everything. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good luck, guys. You too. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
See you, folks.